Hi, Sharada. Welcome to the Tax Lady podcast. This is so strange to be on Zoom with you. We have met in person a lot of times already. So
we have. It's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you. The first question I like to really ask is, what is the best career advice someone ever gave to you? And then kind of tell us about what it is that you do and your background.
Sure. So I would say I've gotten a lot of great advice over the course of my career, but one of my favorites is to say it out loud. So a lot of times we think that we're showing up in a certain way at work or even in our personal relationships. And the way that we're showing up tells everyone what we want or what we expect. But the person on the other side of that relationship, again, whether it's a work relationship or a personal relationship, can't read our minds. And so if you want growth in your career, you want a certain role, or you want exposure to something, or if something's not going well for you personally the way that you would like, it's really important to say that out loud and to not just assume that your behavior and the way that you're showing up is communicating effectively. And I would say I've had that impact me a couple of different ways in my career where, again, I was showing up in a way that I thought demonstrated that I really wanted to grow into an executive role. And I finally asked a woman executive that I trusted why I wasn't growing. And she said, I didn't know that you wanted to, right? I didn't know that that was something you aspired to. And if that's something that you want, you have to let us know so that we can coach and shape you in that way. And so that's my favorite, very simple piece of advice. A little bit more about me. So I grew up between Michigan and Indiana in small towns. I'm the oldest of 7 kids. Both of my parents were teachers, and so I'm really the only one that has moved away from small town life, so to speak. Moved to Chicago after I graduated from college, and I've been here ever since. I'm out in Oak Park, outside of Chicago, and I have a husband and an 11-year-old daughter, and then a dog and a guinea pig as well to round the family out. I am vegan. I've been vegan for about 6 years, and that's a big part of my life for both health and environmental reasons. I am a managing director with CBRE, where I've worked for 20 years, which is insane to say out loud. It's been a great career, and I've had lots of different roles with CBRE. I am the president of the Chicago chapter of FEI, which is a role that I'll be in for 1 more year. It's a two-year gig. And then I'm also an advisory board member for the Beck Legacy Fund, which is an organization that focuses on helping advance equity and inclusion for marginalized or underrepresented communities.
That's awesome. I never knew your parents were teachers. That's interesting because I actually teach part-time or seasonally in Chicago, and I've had the chance to teach business classes and actually college credit classes. So that's pretty cool. Tell me a little bit more about your role at CBRE. For those of us who are not familiar with CBRE, it's one of the largest commercial real estate companies in the US. I mean, if you walk around Chicago and most of the buildings are owned by CBRE or leased by CBRE, can you tell us a little bit more about that role?
Yeah, sure. So like I said, I've been here for 20 years. I've had a lot of different roles in my time with CBRE. It's a global commercial real estate firm, the largest commercial real estate services firm, I should say. So we don't own property. We're focused on real estate services. I have spent time in 2 different parts of the business. There's three core areas of our business: a real estate investments side of the business, an advisory or consultative side of the business, and then an outsourcing side of the business. And I spent the first 15 years of my career in the advisory consultative side. I was in finance and operations roles, helping us run our internal offices, our internal operations for CBRE. And then the past 5 years of my career, I've been on the outsourcing side of the business, where large corporations or mid-sized corporations outsource a portion or all of their real estate function to CBRE, and we manage it on their behalf. And so the role that I'm in currently for CBRE is a client-facing role where I'm managing real estate for one of our client relationships.
That's very cool. I've gotten into real estate more heavily, I think, around COVID. When I started my tax business, actually, it sort of kind of became this real estate tax advisory service because I got to talk to a lot of individual real estate investors, not big commercial companies, even though I talk to them now sometimes and I'll do some sort of tax advisory or consulting on the side. So I've gotten into the real estate industry more and more, and it's always very intriguing for me to learn a lot about how real estate is actually run, even globally now in your terms. And it's really interesting for me to hear about people's real estate careers, because 1 in every 3 people you talk to these days are either realtors or investors or somehow involved in real estate. So I'm always very curious about that part of their career life.
It's pretty fascinating to me that it's everywhere around us, right? Commercial real estate is not something I ever thought about growing up as a career opportunity, but it's everywhere. It's industrial, it's retail, all of the space that businesses use, multifamily, apartment building, those are all commercial real estate asset types. It's everywhere that you go, and yet it's not a career that I even thought about or that I feel was mentioned to me as I was growing up. So it's really fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now, I'm an accountant for a private equity company here in Chicago. They have to own properties to operate, right? They're a physical company and they need to operate. And so they either purchase or lease properties. So real estate has always been kind of like, even when I worked in manufacturing, we manufactured soda cans, but a lot of our accounting and financial analysis, we focused on our leasing
real estate
contracts and our real estate and properties.
Yep. It's core to all business operations, whether you own it or you lease it. It's part of how businesses operate. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Tell us about your FEI experience. I know you're a president now, but how long have you been involved with FEI and how it's helped you in your career?
Yeah, so I've been involved with FEI for probably 6 to 7 years. COVID is in there, and we all know COVID time kind of it kind of erases years for some of us. But I got involved with FEI because I've been at CBRE for so long. Most of my professional network is related to CBRE, and I'm the type of person that develops relationships through doing things together, through participating, through getting engaged with folks. And so again, not having ever been at another company, another organization, my relationships were very CBRE centric. And at one point, I just realized that I needed to build out a stronger network to help me continue to grow as a professional. And I started looking around, and FEI was the organization that came up. And I attended a couple of events and had a good experience. And there were a couple of key members that brought me into the fold, so to speak, and helped me get involved in the organization fairly quickly. I joined the DEI committee and then ultimately ended up leading the DEI committee for FEI Chicago and helped participate in some DEI activities for FEI at a national level. It's a national organization with chapters in different cities that operate independently. And then last year stepped into the president role, which has been really fun for me. But I really joined because I felt like I needed a larger community outside of just CBRE so that I was getting exposure to how other companies operate, what other service providers are doing for other large and small organizations, and FEI was able to provide that to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've gotten a chance to be involved with FEI. I think I started in April. I was at one of the Kelly Richmond Pope events, and I was really happy to have met you there, actually. And I've been involved in I actually visited CBRE. You had a presentation where we talked a little bit about inclusion and things like how you can progress in your career. And you talked a little bit about how people can join FEI and things like that. So I've been kind of lucky enough to participate in FEI. How can people who are watching this, how can they join FEI? What are some of the things they need to do or not?
Yeah. They can reach out to me. I'm always happy to bring people into FEI. You can find us online. I'm happy to provide the contact information if you want to include it with the podcast when you post. But ultimately, joining events is the easiest way to get engaged and get involved. Maybe one other thing that I think would be helpful for folks to think about is a lot of times we lean on our network when something bad happens and we need to find a new job, or suddenly we need help. And if we haven't spent time cultivating and staying in touch with that network over time, they will still probably show up for you, but it's a lot easier to find folks to show up for you if you've been keeping in contact and you've stayed in touch with the community that ultimately you're going to need to ask for help. And so that's something that FEI does for me. I haven't had to lean on FEI for something like a new role, but a lot of our members have. And it's the ones that haven't joined FEI previously and are just coming into the community because they need a new role, a new CFO role, and they haven't been involved in the past, always feel like they're a few steps behind, because you're building relationships and building community while you're also asking for help and connection. And again, I think everyone always shows up and says, I could be in that seat at some point myself, and I'm going to show up for you. But it's easier to make that ask if you've developed those relationships. So that was a long answer to a question you didn't ask. But to get involved with FEI, I would say you can reach out to any of our FEI board members. We have a trial membership that's available if you want to test drive it. 6 months of free membership that allows you to attend all of our events for free. That's an ongoing offer and a great way for folks to check us out.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's what I'm doing. So I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. You know, I'm so happy that we had a chance to connect and meet through FEI and just stay connected. And again, I'll have Sharada's information tagged in the video and under the video and comments. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great to be on.
You too. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.